I started out in my addiction very young. I came from an abusive home. I started using meth when I was 11 years old, kind of just to deal with everything, and everybody kind of was more calm around me, so I started using it to cope for myself, you know, and just slowly progressed into more things throughout the abuse in my childhood. I was living with my father. My mother had kicked me out, sent me to live with my father in Washington. My father's a heroin addict. My mom sent me away because I was using meth. Sent me to live with my father, and my father was a heroin addict, and he was very abusive and forced me to use heroin when I was 13. Kept me locked away in his basement, literally, until I finally got away and ran away. I went to the Greyhound bus station in Seattle, and I met just some random guy at the Greyhound bus station asking for money to get home, trying to come back here, and couldn't get a hold of any of my family here. None of them believed me. And so I went with the guy who paid for my bus ticket, and he ended up being into drugs as well. And I had stayed gone with him until I was 17, living in California. That was my first relationship, started when I was 13. He took me in, took care of me, also kept me on drugs, helped me further my addiction. But it was the only person I had that I felt like I could trust. So I put myself into this abusive, addictive cycle. His family ran drugs across the border. That's like what his family did. And I stayed there. I didn't talk to any of my family until I was 17. And that's when I came back to Utah. He passed away. And so I came back to Utah to be with my family because I had nowhere else to go, and he was gone. My mother's owns a treatment center, and so I went to her first. She took me in, and I just wasn't ready. I thought I was, and there was just so much going on that I didn't know how to handle it or how to respond to the situations around me, and feeling like putting myself in a vulnerable situation, to be vulnerable, to get help with people who didn't believe me when I was hurt the most, was a big part of adding to my addiction, I think. So I went right back out, obviously. And I came up and was living homeless up in Salt Lake City, and just started hanging out with people that I'd meet on the street and staying at people's houses, and then started selling drugs and hanging out with all these people that I met on the street that were all active gang members, and that's the lifestyle that I surrounded myself in until when I got to my point in my addiction that I had gotten into selling drugs, and I went after somebody who had owed me money. I got myself thrown in prison. My addiction made me a very violent person. It made me a person I'm not. And I hurt people physically. I was arrested. I went to prison for 18 months and was out on parole. But I wasn't ready then either. I got out, and I decided I was going to try treatment again, somewhere besides my family's, because I didn't feel like I could trust them or didn't know where to turn. So I went to Ardu Recovery Center in Provo, Utah. And they were awesome. I found someone I could open up to, be comfortable around, and talk about the things that nobody believed me about when I was younger. Talk about the things and find people who, it was nowhere else that I went for help, no meetings I went to, the places I found, the people that were around understood the people I surrounded myself with. So I went to there and met all the people that, were similar backgrounds for me. And I got a lot of help then. That helped me a lot to open up about it. However, for my first actual time trying in rehab, it wasn't enough. I, I think it took me a few times to work past that. I think I brought those things up and didn't give myself enough time. And so I went back out and got involved with another significant other and got my parole violated again and sent back to prison. I had stopped hanging out with the Crips that I was living with and running with, and then I started hanging out with the white supremacists when I went back to prison, the guy that I was dating. And so when I got back out and I was actively with that white supremacist gang member, all of his friends, all of his brothers were just selling drugs, doing this, and I'm trying to stay sober, and it just didn't work out. I thought I could be around to be sober because I had this time, I had all of this. I had it, I was good for a minute, and I was, but learning to figure out who the people I was surrounding myself with is really hard. It is very hard for me. I was recently, I think a low for me in this, aside from when I committed that assault and hurt my friend's mom who had owed me money and went to prison. I think my biggest part of my low was for me feeling that I didn't respect the value of a human life, that I didn't respect the value of someone else's well-being, and that isn't the person that I am. In and out of prison, I took from my family. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I didn't see her grow up at all, and I chose that. And in my mind, thinking she's better off if I'm not there because I'm on drugs, and I didn't want to give them up. And then going in and out of prison and being around all these people and all these gang members and thinking that I was cool or trying to do something was really difficult to understand where I stood or how I was supposed to do things. I think the part that opened my eyes for me was I was indicted by the feds last October on a gang-related indictment, and I think that scared me a lot. They had a law over my head. On top of all the things from hurting people, my family, abandoning my child, losing my brother, I lost my brother to addiction, and then seeing what that's done to our whole family, and seeing that made me not want to be the next one that my nieces or nephews have to wonder what happened, or my daughter has to be, where the rest of us have picked up for what happened with my brother. I went back to Ardu after I got arrested, right before I found out the indictment had been filed. I got sober. I have 18 months on the 9th of November this year. So I'm excited for that. I went back to treatment, and I opened up, and I really put myself in situations where I felt vulnerable, talked about the things that I didn't talk about, and learning who and how is appropriate for me to be able to talk about it, which is, I think, really difficult. So I went back to treatment, and I got sober, and I was sober, going to outpatient, doing really good. Just doing everything that I could to keep on track, keep from going back to prison, starting to be there for my family, was starting to be able to be involved in my daughter's life, picking up after my brother disappeared with his kids, taking them in. I had taken them in, me and my husband now. And then, and with all of that happening, then I found out about the indictment after I'd gotten sober, after all of this stuff, and deciding, that I wanted to pursue my sobriety regardless of whether I got to do it on the streets or not. So I went back to prison, and I was in prison for 17 months. I focused on I called my sponsor from prison. I called and talked to my sponsor. I started trying to work the steps, and the person who was sponsoring me at that time was not as reliable as my new sponsors, but thank goodness for having a new one. But I still stay consistent, and I think that the consistency, regardless of where I was at, was a big part of it. I think finding the right person who you can talk to, knowing that you're done, and me being able to see my friends and realize those people weren't part of my life to begin with. They were there because they wanted to be down where I was at. I wanted me down where they were. And so, I think that was a huge part of realizing that all the people I was surrounding myself with were just so negative, and I just wanted to cling to those friendships, and I wanted to do all those things, and I was trying to hold on to what other people thought of me, how I was supposed to do things for all these people that I thought were my friends and had my back, and just kept going back out. I didn't, because I'm like, okay, well, if you say that that's going to work, or you're not going to do it around me, or like, I had to learn a whole new perception of the way people, even some people in sobriety that were that are sober, like, are bad for my recovery too. And that's been hard. I'm a very people-oriented person. I like people and to be social, and it's really hard in recovery because so much changed for me. And so that's been a big adjustment also. And so right before I was getting released from the prison this time, I found my new sponsor, who I have now. And it's been awesome. And finding the capability to surrender myself to something else. I feel like looking back on all of the things and all the people that I hurt, do I regret them? Yeah, I do, but I don't feel like I could be a better person had I not gone through what I went through and done what I had done. I work consistently to just make the next right move every time that I take an action. I use the 12 steps religiously, journal every day. I get to be around my daughter. I just spent the first Halloween I've ever had with my daughter this year. Sorry. The first Halloween I've ever had with my daughter in her whole life, with her, and it was awesome. And it was crazy to me to think that I willingly gave that up, thinking I was doing the right thing. Like, that was a big wake up for me. Sorry. It's been great though. It's been awesome being around her. I felt like I was scared I was gonna have nothing, and starting over when I came back out, and just having the support and doing what I have to do and taking the next right step has been working. I got out and I was terrified. Where am I gonna go? And I got out and I had a place almost immediately. My daughter, I got to see her for the first time. I got to take in my niece who lost her dad and live together, and I get to help her through her pregnancy. I get to be there for my family, and I didn't have that choice years ago because I made choices that had made that not possible for me. And even though I really wish that I could take back that I did it, I'm really grateful that I know how much my family means to me, how much the strength in my recovery means to them, to see what I'm capable of, and seeing that people can come to me, and I know, like, I get it, like I've had a few friends hit me up there, like, I don't want to gangbang no more. I don't want to go back to prison. I don't want to do this. It's like, well, you don't have to. And to me, that was so crazy to think, because I was stuck. Like, I can't leave. I can't do this. I can't do that. Like, I have all these things. How am I just gonna let all this go? And now it's like, why didn't I? Like, I have my kids, I have my family, I have a job, a car, things, and I haven't been free long. You know, if you do the work and you put your next foot forward and just keep going, even though I'm gonna stumble, I might get irritated, you know, that's what my sponsor's for. That's what a sponsor's for. That's what a meeting's for, you know. I think I drive my sponsor crazy. Trying to adjust. For anybody coming into recovery, I would definitely say that the most important thing is to realize who around you is healthy, who around you is there for you, who around you will be there when you come out of treatment, when you come out of that meeting, who's gonna come and be there by your side, and are those people really healthy for you? And is it a selfish reason you're not letting them go? Or, you know, is it a codependency and you're just scared to let them go? Because I think that was a huge part that kept me stuck, was I didn't want to give up those people. I didn't want to be alone, and you're not alone. Like, you're not alone. I met tons of people and I felt like I had nobody. I was terrified. And I can't count how many people are in my contacts that will just pick up the phone now. Like, it's worth to get up and go. There's so much more out there. I think service is super important. I think, you know, when I'm feeling down, I like to go out and find something. I'll go do something just to go help somebody or make somebody food or take my niece for a ride or go get a drink, you know, just little things that you can actually enjoy. Like, I don't have to go out and chase those. I have to go out and chase a high. I don't have to go chase people to get a high. Like, there's so much more that I can do now that I didn't feel like then. And it's not lonely out here, out of addiction. And that's what I was so scared of, is being alone and not having anybody who understood where I came from. And that's a huge thing, is I feel like people feel like that nobody's been through what I've been through, and that's bullshit. It was bull. Because I've heard so many stories and I'm like, wow, people do know what I'm talking about. Like, this isn't just special to me, you know, and I hope that people know that when they want to come into recovery. Because knowing that and knowing people aren't looking at me like I'm a bad person for all the time that I've done in prison, that I abandoned my kid, that I had, you know, took off on my family, that I hurt people physically, that I sold drugs and hung out with all those people. Who cares? There's so many people out here to keep me away from that now, and so much to look forward to. I get to go home to my baby tonight and see my kid. I get to drive home with my niece in the car and listen to music and play with my dog, you know, and I didn't have that before, and it's great. I love being able to be present, and I hope that anybody else can too.